Hey everybody, it's Alec here, and I'm making another YouTube video. I know it has been quite a while. I was looking through my YouTube history, and I haven't published a video in, I think, 7 months. I haven't posted a video at all in 2025, which is kind of crazy, and that's about to change because YouTube is a really powerful way for anybody to get their message out there. And there is a lot of knowledge to be shared, especially coming from my domain of expertise and helping you guys do awesome events as a way to grow your business. And I think about how natural podcast interviews go for me right now. I'm doing a podcast right now. It's called Peak Potential with Alec Mountain. And it's going really well and things just flow. And when people have me on their podcast, conversations just flow. And especially when other people have me on their podcast, like there's just so much that I share and it's just so easy. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just do something like solo episodes of the podcast where I just talk to the camera. However, the podcast is really focused on personal development, spirituality, growing in business, while my YouTube channel, Alec Mountain, right now is really focused on growing your events business, actually growing a local community through events is a way to grow your business. So that's what these videos are going to be about. And I'm just excited to be here. And so it's the first YouTube video on this channel that I've made in 2025. And I thought the topic of this video should be something along the lines of, should you do networking events to grow your business in 2025? And as most of you know that have been following me, like, of course, I'm a strong advocate for doing local events as a way to grow your business. But at the end of the day, it just really depends on who you are as a person. I'm not going to make it seem like every business owner should do events because they probably shouldn't. But if you are a specific business owner that's selling a service and a high value service, and you like meeting new people, and you have somewhat of a broad range of people that you work with, and you like the idea of growing your personal brand in a given city and just doing something that not a lot of other people do that's highly rewarding, then it's probably for you. But let me give you a little bit of backstory for those that don't know my story. I really started taking events seriously back when I moved to Southern California a few years ago. And more specifically, when I moved to Irvine. And I moved to Irvine in October of 2022. And this was a time where I didn't know anybody whatsoever. And at the time, I had an advertising business, kind of doing everything for everyone. Prior to that, well, that's basically how I started in entrepreneurship. But during that time, several months leading up to that, I had started other businesses because I liked doing other projects, and all of them did not work out the way that I wanted them to. And I thought, okay, well, I've basically have spent a lot of my money, and I don't have, and I need to start making money again. And let me figure out how I can grow my advertising business, because that's always been my bread and butter. And not everybody that is starting events is going to be in that position where they're kind of like back against the wall. What am I going to do? But that's just personally my story. With a lot of people that I work with, a lot of time they are already, really successful, and they're just looking at events as a way to further grow what they're doing, or they've been successful in a specific line of business, and they think coaching and consulting, it'd be fun to grow that side of a business. Doing that sort of stuff, and events are a really great way to do that. But anyway, back to my story. I really needed to grow my advertising business again, just to get something going. And I turned to events as a way to do that. And if you haven't seen my video, how I turn every $1 into 10 with local client getting events, link is in the description where I break down that entire process. But basically, I put out an ad saying, hey, if you're an entrepreneur or a business person in the area and you want to grow your business, sign up for my events. And I didn't have any event planned at the time or anything like that. I was just wanted to grow a contact list of people that were excited about what I was doing, because I thought, hey, if I can get a ton of people excited about what I'm doing, a certain amount of them will buy tickets to my event. So I was just building up the email list. And again, if you want to know exactly how I do that for myself and my clients, link in the description. But anyway, that worked really well, and I got hundreds of contacts within a couple of months. And the next question was, are these contacts going to actually buy tickets to my events? You know, because you have all these contacts, but it's free to get a contact, right? It's like a lead. How many resonate with the message enough to the point where they're actually going to come to the event? And the short answer was a lot. I remember I had started those ads at the very end of October 2022, and I basically announced the first event the very beginning of 2023. And I sold over 100 tickets to that event, and it was really successful. So I kept, and all of the ad spend that I had spent getting the contacts was paid for with the ticket sales. So it's super effective. And then of course I've done more and more events, and I've helped a lot of other people outside of where I live do events. And also a lot of people I've worked with in Southern California to do events, but based around their own niche and offering. So I know events to work. I've worked with over a dozen people to help them with their events at this point, including many of which, you know, had been working with me for several months, really enjoyed the benefits of it. So I know that it's really great. However, it's not for everybody, but in this video, I want to break down who this is for and who this is not. So first of all, let's start with who this is not. Who shouldn't be doing these style of networking events as a way to grow their business? And first of all, those that don't live in a populated area. By the way, before we get into this, part of the reason just to get some more context that I kept doing these events and, you know, why they were good for my business is because I was able to convert a lot of clients from them, right? Events themselves are not a big business, at least in the way that I've done them. Yeah, I might profit $2,000 or $3,000 on an event, but, you know, that's really not enough to like pay my bills. Really, the value was, hey, not only am I making this amount of money from these events, but I'm actually getting people to pay me to help them run their ads and stuff like that. So really in 2023, I was doing a lot of events. I was making money on every event, and I was also getting clients from it. And that's when I thought, hey, other people could utilize the same system as a way to grow their business. And that's been my main offer for almost the last couple of years or so. It's going on 18 months, I think. And that's pretty much the only thing that I sell now, is I help other people replicate my exact system so that they too can do networking events as a way to grow their client base. Because think of the event as a way to bring everybody together. And why do a lot of the time people attend networking events is because they want to grow in a specific area of their life. And a certain amount of those people, if you pitch to them correctly, there'll be videos on that, will want your help. So it's not only a great way to build community and bring people together, but it can also be really rewarding from a business standpoint. But so who shouldn't be doing these events? People that don't live in a populated area. So, and you're not willing to travel every month to a populated area. Because normally when you do these events, you want to do them every month, ideally, or maybe every 5 or 6 weeks. Because consistency is great. I don't really need to explain consistency to you guys, right? If you do more events, each event builds off the momentum of the previous one. You know, so like I was talking to someone that lived in a prospect that lived in some area of California that was just like completely isolated. And before I got on a call with this guy, I was like, this guy probably shouldn't do events because like nobody lives in this area. But then he was like, when I got on the phone with him, he was like, well, I actually want to build a community in Las Vegas because I'm going to be spending more time out there. So it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now we can actually have this conversation, because if you're trying to, you know, run ads in an area where there's not a lot of people, you're not going to have a lot of success. So what I would say is, you know, if you live in a metropolitan area that has less than 500,000 people, I would say less than a couple 100,000 people, it's going to be hard to really fill your events. But most of the people that I talk to, if you stumble across the video and you're interested in doing events or you follow me, you probably live in a metropolitan area. Like I live in Orange County. There's 3 million people in Orange County, LA, all the major, there's a lot of areas that are very populated. You likely live in one. But yeah, even if you don't live in a populated area though, and you want to do events, consider doing events once a month in a different area where there are people and you can build a community. Another thing is people that shouldn't do events are those that sell like physical products. I'm not saying events in general. I'm just saying this style of like building an entrepreneur community as a way to get clients. Like I said, events themselves are not like it's not highly motivating from a money standpoint, the ticket sales. That's not the core motivation of why we're doing these events. We're doing these events because obviously to build community and get your brand out there, but to get high ticket clients. So a lot of the people that I've worked with and I've seen be successful with this are coaches, consultants, and agency owners, especially those that are selling higher ticket services. Because you could do an event and you can make $1,000 or $2,000, and that's cool. But if you can also get 1 or 2 clients to pay you $5,000 or $10,000, that makes things a lot more motivating. And that's what basically my story, which is almost like every event, I would get 1 or 2 or several clients to sign up for my advertising services. Like if I was selling like Brita water bottles, for example, like I wouldn't be doing events in the way that I've described. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or if I was selling something like very low ticket, like a Bluetooth speaker over there or something like that, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. What does make sense is selling offering like a low ticket subscription to a community. So you can have you can sell your ticket to the event, get people there, and then get people on like a monthly community that's like $50 or $100 a month. And part of what you can include in that community is a 1-hour strategy session with you, the coach or consultant, or however you define yourself. And then you can use that strategy session as a way to get a high ticket client for your business. So in previous videos, I've spoken about, hey, pitch a strategy session, $100 strategy session at these events as a way to get clients. But also if you're pretty clear about a community that you want to build and you're going to be doing these events every month, why not, instead of a $100 strategy session, pitch a monthly community that's $100 a month, and part of that is they get weekly group coaching calls and free tickets to your events and all of that kind of stuff. And for those that want further support than that, you can get those people on a strategy session to see if they want to sign up for your higher ticket things. So it accomplishes the same thing as a strategy session, since you can just include that in your membership, but you're also getting recurring revenue. But anyway, most of you should know this, but like if you're selling something like low ticket, like a ring light or a water bottle, or a protein bar, that's not who this is for. This is for people that are building entrepreneur communities and want to leverage that to get clients. So also personality and outgoingness. If you lack outgoingness, or you don't like being in front of people, the idea of speaking scares you and you don't want to do it, you're probably not a good fit for this. And you can probably imagine why. Should you overcome your fears? Absolutely. But you also don't want to stretch yourself too far to the point where it's incredibly stressful. I remember I was talking with a prospect. This was over a year ago. And I remember him telling me, we sat down physically in a meeting. Most of my consultations are virtual, but this one was in person because he was local to the area. And he was telling me, yeah, man, when I was younger, I was just a total introvert, And even not too long ago, if I had a meeting with somebody, a prospect, I would be sweating. And I was like, just because the nervousness of being around other people. I was like, but he's like, yeah, recently I've gone out of that. And as you can see, we're having a conversation, everything's fine. But he just had a background where he was just like, even as an adult, he was just like, was fearful of talking to people. And I was like, okay, well, that's a huge step up. The fact that you were once a few years ago fearful of talking to people, and now you're out here wanting to do events and speak on stage and create your own stages. And he was in. Put down a deposit on the program. I don't remember or not if he signed a contract. No, I think we had a contract signed, and he put down a deposit. And then we were going to start on a future date. And when that date came around, I messaged him. I was like, hey, we're getting started on this date. And he completely ghosted me. He paid the deposit, but I was giving him the Stripe link. And when I send somebody that Stripe link, they're basically putting in, it's like a monthly subscription link, and they're getting billed every single month. So, hey, once you put that sum of money in, like, you're committing for the program, right? Which is what makes sense after you sign a program. You sign a contract, I send you a Stripe link, and then every week or every month, depending on how I bill you, that amount is being deducted. It's a credit card charge or however you pay, right? And he didn't move forward with that link. And I was just thinking to myself, like, and he completely ghosted me too, which is weird. Like, you have an hour-long in-person conversation with somebody, they sign a contract, they give you a deposit, but then when it came time to start, he wouldn't start, and he just was gone. And I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, I kind of understand that. I wasn't mad. I was just like, I get it, man. I don't want to pretend I read his mind, but I was like, this is a guy that really wasn't sure. And that's why I'm not trying to hard sell anybody on this, because this is like a task. I think it's really fun. A lot of the clients that I've worked with have had a lot of fun, but this is for people that are okay with putting themselves out there and are very outgoing. So I don't ever want to pressure anybody that's not that type of person to be that kind of person. Maybe there are a couple questions I could have asked him, like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you told me about this past that you had where you couldn't talk to anybody, and now you want to do this. And it just makes sense for somebody like him, hey, just instead of just trying to build an in-person community and doing public speaking, just start by making Instagram videos. That's a good progression, Like, if you want to learn a handstand, you don't just start by attempting the handstand, right? Or that's not the best way to do it. I do a lot of calisthenics now, and I'm learning the handstand. I'm decently good at it, but it's not like you just start with that. You start with a lot of other progressions that lead up to that. So that's actually kind of how I look at this, is if you want to do events and you want to publicly speak, and you've already had a certain level of success in your business, you've probably gotten past a lot of these mindset blocks. And you probably have a little bit of experience, which are all like progressions to the bigger thing where you're creating your stages. And I try not to make this whole process look confusing or complicated at all, because it's not. It just takes going out and doing the thing. Okay, another thing, who shouldn't do events? You primarily work with people in corporate. This is interesting. So I would say the vast majority of my clients are people that are selling to other entrepreneurs, or they can sell primarily to entrepreneurs. Because if you know what these ads look like, and not just watch the VSL, but if you don't know what these ads look like, we're promoting networking events. And who are the types of people that attend networking events? Oftentimes they're business owners. Why? Because business owners aren't salaried. There's no cap on how much money they can make. So a lot of the time, they're going to be more inspired to meet people and build connections as a way to grow their business. While somebody that works a 9 to 5, they're playing a completely different game, even if they're an executive. They're playing the corporate ladder game, right? It's a very different world. There can be two people that live in the same place. They can both live in Orange County, but they live in very different worlds based on their career path. You look at an executive, how is that executive going to make more money? In the corporate game, right? That might be hopping jobs, or it might be getting a promotion or something like that. Well, how are entrepreneurs growing their businesses? By meeting more people. So basically, these events and this whole system, the people that are going to respond the best are going to be people that are other entrepreneurs. Or you can attract corporate people just because you will, based on, a lot of people in corporate want to become entrepreneurs. So sometimes these ads can attract those kinds of people anyway. But if you're looking to specifically network with like CTOs of big companies or CMOs or C-suite executives and those kinds of people, a lot of the time, not every time, but it's less likely that they're going to respond to a Facebook or an Instagram ad to go out and meet new people, just because there's not a lot of incentive to, because the way that they're going to progress in their life is through the ways that I spoke about, not necessarily going to networking events and meeting new people. So these events and this whole strategy is best designed if you want to build a community of entrepreneurs or just people that have non-salaried incomes. And those a lot of the time are like agents and brokers. I have built communities of agents and brokers that's a little bit more challenging. I think just if you're able to work with entrepreneurs as your primary demographic, go for it. It doesn't mean that you only have to work with them. Like I was working with a woman that sold skincare services. She doesn't have to work with entrepreneurs, but she wanted to build a community. And I said, build a community of entrepreneurs. You might serve people that work in corporate, that's fine. But because you have the ability to serve entrepreneurs, you might as well just market to them, because these are the people that are going to be most interested in attending your events. I had a conversation with a lady that was like, yeah, my ideal client are like first responders, or people that managed first responders. I don't even know if I would call her a prospect, but just somebody that I was having a conversation with about my services. And I was like, yeah, these are not people that I think I don't think you'd get a lot of people from your ads, because this is like super, super niche, like a super niche job title. Like, again, if you're going after a certain subset of like employees or executives, like, hey, if you want to target executives and that's who you want to work with, if you want to get yourself into big companies, maybe you start a podcast and you interview those people. But just as a way that where the ads are all set up and building a community, the people that are going to respond best are going to be other entrepreneurs. So if you're targeting entrepreneurs as your primary demographic, that's great. And also there's levels to this too. Like it doesn't just have to be all entrepreneurs, it can be entrepreneurs of a certain ethnicity. It can be entrepreneurs in a specific industry, as long as that industry isn't too niche. I'll give you a couple examples. Like I have a client who, I'm not working with him currently, but I helped him build a community of e-commerce entrepreneurs. E-commerce is huge. There's a lot of people that have product-based businesses. So we were able to successfully build a community of e-commerce entrepreneurs, and that gave him a lot of client opportunities. I know people that have built like entrepreneur communities related to certain religions. Like I haven't worked with anybody specifically that's building like a faith-based community, but like if you wanted to build a community around like Christianity or Judaism or stuff like that, I'm sure that would do extremely well. So like something that's like that caters to entrepreneurs as a whole, you can get a little bit more niche in your targeting if it's related to like their ethnicity or certain industries or interests. But if you're going after like very specific job titles in corporate, probably not the best for the reasons that I stated. They're not interested in attending events. Go after entrepreneurs. And if you can't go after entrepreneurs, probably wouldn't advise this. Unless you're working with also people that would have non-salaried incomes but are not technically entrepreneurs, like agents and brokers and those types of things. But ideally, you're working with entrepreneurs. So other things I could talk about is who should do events. I think based on talking about who shouldn't do events, I also gave a lot of clarity on who should do events. You're a coach, consultant, agency owner, you sell a high value service because like I said, Is it possible to just make money on the events? Absolutely. But really the more inspiration is going to be the clients that you get from it. And you work with entrepreneurs in a broad range of industries. If you work with people in a specific industry, that's fine, as long as it's a large industry. We just gotta you gotta think about it. If you're putting out a Facebook and an Instagram ad, and you're putting your message out there, you wanna put out a message that is appealing to a broad range of people. So that could be entrepreneurs. And by the way, a lot of people think they're being niche when they're really not. So if you're targeting entrepreneurs that are very growth minded, they're in the personal development, they might be interested in wellness, that's a lot of people. You're not super niche in that regard. What I mean by niche is a very specific job titles. That's when you get really niche. But if you're just I want to build a community of people just like me, they're in the personal development, they want to level up their frequency, they're just into mindset and spirituality, that's a lot of people, honestly. That's not super niche when you're marketing to millions of people in your area. But yeah, working with entrepreneurs in a broad range of industries or specific industries like e-commerce, even health and wellness. If you're a coach and you coach coaches, there's a lot of coaches where you live. That's an industry that can work really well. I know a popular one are coaches, authors, and speakers. That's a really great niche to tap into if you are servicing those kinds of people. But if you were like me when I started doing events and you're just working with all kinds of people, all kinds of business owners, maybe you're in a marketing agency, you don't need to get that specific in your messaging unless you really want to. So guys, that's about it for this video. Again, I'm just putting these out there to show in my thoughts. Hopefully this was valuable to you. There's other videos on this channel. Make sure you check out my VSL in the link in the description, how I turn every $1 into 10 with local client getting events, which goes into a lot of detail on the types of stuff that we talked about, as far as also a lot of visual stuff as well. And there's other videos as well on this channel. And that's it from me. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below or message me on Instagram at Alec Mountain. Follow me there if you haven't already. And if you're not subscribed, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe. That's it from me. I'll see you guys in the next video.